Okay, so this video is on the Big Sort and kind of why I would say how it happened. And to go back to how it happened, we would have to go what I would believe would be World War II. So when World War II happened, we see how Europe loses its industrial capacity completely, and America is left as the sole provider for all manufactured goods, basically. So I believe that this created a over bloating of American industry that led to this golden age that we would call the 50s, basically. And as Europe gets rebuilt, and so does the far eastern nations like Japan and Korea, later on China, we see that so the market wasn't really all that growing, I would say, so much as there were more competitors and more countries could provide manufactured goods to themselves. So that is when we see the decline in American machinery, we would say. And with that comes the losing of so many jobs and the decay of the Midwest, known as now the Rust Belt, basically. I think this is part besides the fact that many companies decided to move out for cheaper labor. Like, this is definitely one of the key problems. So we can talk about how this happened. Seeing all these towns get basically destroyed and people having to leave because there's no more economic opportunity. I believe that caused real disruption to the social fabric of not just the little regions in general, but as a nation entirely, because it was such a huge hit. So when these social fabrics are torn, a lot of times, even if you bring back manufacturing jobs or just good paying jobs, that still isn't enough to fix it. A lot of times that the decay that came from the losing the economic opportunities was enough damage that it wasn't being rebuilt by the same jobs coming back. So when we see this a lot in the going to the more religious aspect. We see this more in the decline of denominational churches, so actual sects of Christianity. So less organized churches that would be connected nationwide. We would see more non-denominational churches that only the pastor in that church, he isn't really connected to anyone else, and it's only that small community. So when you have that small community, it tends to forge a group of people that are like-minded, because you can just leave to another smaller church, and basically it creates little pockets, essentially sorting people out into their own groups. That is part of the reason of why the Big Sort happened. We can also see in many ways, as we were discussing in class, the rattlesnake handling. If some churches, all of them, of course, non-denominational, which means nobody's above the pastor in case things got too crazy. We see how these little clusters became, I would say, more radicalized, to the point where they were holding snakes for spiritual reasons. I think that in a way shows the polarization that we are experiencing today. That when we forge ourselves into these small groups of people who think alike, we no longer see our neighbors because as the same as us, because then again they also moved because they don't want to be with us if they don't believe the same ideas. And I can definitely see this in many places. The place where I live, I feel like it's a place where it's being sorted out as more people come in from the city and more people leave, basically making the area more sorted out in what people believe, more linear. So that is how the Big Sort happened and how it contributes to the polarization of America.